From Prairie 2. Escaping Montreuil-sur-Mer. Do you pronounce the R in sur, Kathy? Sur-mer? Montreuil-sur-Mer. Hope I'm doing that right. Prairie 2 writes, in what could be remembered as an historic event, really it probably won't, President Obama's State of the Union speech laid out a bold proposal for dramatically reducing gun violence, overall crime, assaults against women, and the preservation of marriage. He did all of that with one sentence, and the Republicans will fight him until the last billionaire to stop it. He wants to raise the minimum wage to $9 an hour. Yes, raising the minimum wage will have a dramatic effect on all of those things in ways no other legislation can. With Boehner running the House, the leader of the free world might as well have asked for unicorns. It ain't going to happen on the orange guy's watch. For Obama, it was strictly a political move. If he was seeking a policy based on economic and social justice, he would have demanded no less than $11 an hour to get Americans back up to the equivalent of the 1938 minimum wage standards. A wage standard that propelled what was then a collapsed nation and nearly failed state into becoming the economic powerhouse that took on the world at war and won, then dominated the planet for the next half century. Okay, there were a few other things from the New Deal and the war planning of FDR that made a difference, but this was the foundation that it was all built upon. A livable wage. This is why the Republicans have fought against it so ferociously ever since. The fact is that the economic recovery is entirely dependent on people making enough to live on. New numbers out this week show that nearly half of Americans literally live paycheck to paycheck. Of course, a big fraction of those people aren't living paycheck to paycheck. They're steadily falling behind. There is a reason that the Republicans constantly obsess over wealth redistribution. They've been redistributing wealth upward in a big way. New numbers show that since the Bush crash, the 99% at the bottom have lost ground, while the 1% at the top have cashed in big time, especially the few dozen billionaires at the very top. The 47% of Americans made famous by Romney have really taken a beating. Right-wingers continue to chant the talking points provided to them by the billionaires, talking points that favor, well, only the billionaires. They claim that the minimum wage should be zero, and then the job creators would be set free. The Walmart heirs, by themselves, now hold more wealth than the bottom 40% of Americans, 120 million of us. Ironically, those same 40% of people see Walmart as something good, even if it's becoming increasingly inaccessible to them. Walmart employees don't shop there. They go to the dollar store, the food bank, and the charity thrift store. They collect food stamps and earned income rebates on their income tax returns, while their kids get subsidized school lunches so they can eat a full meal once or twice a day. They get their health care from Medicaid, and if they're lucky enough to live in a state, that is, if they're lucky enough to live in a state that doesn't steal that from them too. The cities they live in give millions to Walmart, while the police and fire departments go unfunded. And at the same time, the working poor are targeted for municipal service fees and are subject to arbitrary fines to raise revenue for local government. It's easy for a law-abiding citizen to find themselves in a probation trap because they can't afford a lawyer to fight a trumped-up charge. They then make endless payments to local governments in a Jean Valjean scenario where a single late payment to the corporation that acts for the court gets them years more probation and mandatory administration payments when no actual crime was ever committed. That is, if they're lucky enough to avoid being sentenced to Montreuil-sur-Mer, the corporate prison where your sentence can be extended to life for trivial offenses. Yes, we can end Les Miserables, and Obama's words can put that in motion. But Obama isn't going to do it for you. You must do it for yourself. Now is the time. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. Ooh. Prairie2.com. Ooh. Boy, if it ever happens in this country, really, I'm afraid it would be a modern-day version of the terror. I know. It would be very difficult for that to ever occur. But good Lord. Prairie 2 also sent me something when I was talking about taking away the speech rights of so-called of these right-wing devils that so distort and destroy everything. Bruce writes, no, Mike, you don't need to do away with the First Amendment if the First Amendment is actually enforced. The right-wing talkers only get away with their maggot-eater nonsense because the billionaires were able to capture 98% of the media. If every market had a full-size, full-force liberal outlet, the right would be treated like the village idiots that they really are. Of course, because this standard doesn't exist for business in general, there is no ad revenue for any liberal outlets already. The big corporations dominate the media to the point that even local small business goose steps in line, thinking that they are protecting their interests as they really sign up for their own extinction. Yeah, that's so true. And there it was in today's New York Times. Comcast is now the full owner of everything NBC. All of it. And that includes a lot of stuff. Did you know that? Where is that piece that I got today? Bum 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 bada bum bada bum bada bum bum bum. I can't find it. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, how about this? This is interesting. The Pentagon is creating a new combat medal for the people who operate the joysticks on the computer terminals that manage the drones. Have you heard about this? The troops who launch the drone strikes and direct the cyber attacks that can kill may never set foot in the combat zone, but now their battlefield contributions may be recognized with the first new combat-related medal to be created in decades. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta announced today that the Pentagon is creating a medal that can be awarded to troops who have a direct impact on combat operations, but do it far away from any combat zone. Panetta said, quote, I've seen firsthand how modern tools like remotely piloted platforms and cyber systems have changed the way wars are fought. And they've given our men and women the ability to engage the enemy and change the course of battle, even from afar. He went on, the work they do does contribute to the success of combat operations, particularly when they remove the enemy from the field of battle, even if those actions are physically removed from the fight. So, we are going to have a new blue, red, and white ribbon Distinguished Warfare Medal. Jesus Christ. It will be awarded to, interesting that this comes out on Ash Wednesday, right? It'll be rewarded to individuals for, quote, extraordinary achievement, end quote, related to a military operation that occurred after September 11th, 2001. But like other combat medals, this one doesn't require the recipient to risk his or her life to get it. This is the first combat-related award to be created since the Bronze Star in 1944. Oh, my God. So now you can get a combat-related medal for sitting at a computer terminal. The medal is a brass pendant nearly 2 inches tall with a laurel wreath that circles a globe, and there's an eagle in the center. laurel wreath, such as the one worn by, Greek athletes? An eagle in the center. Great. Just effing great.